The glowing blue expanse of the Orion Nebula stretched out before Samantha Archer's small explorer craft as she guided it cautiously through the dense field of asteroids. The young pilot's hands moved with practiced precision across the controls, her eyes scanning the readouts with laser-like focus. Samantha had volunteered for this deep space reconnaissance mission, eager to put her outstanding piloting skills to the test and perhaps make a name for herself beyond the confines of Earth. What she hadn't expected was to stumble upon an alien outpost, a discovery that would shatter the Galactic Council's long-held assumptions about the human race. As she drew closer, Samantha's breath caught in her throat. The alien station was unlike anything she had ever seen, its gleaming metal exterior adorned with intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. She maneuvered her craft into a stable orbit, heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. "This is Pilot Archer of the Terran exploration vessel Endeavour," she transmitted, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I have encountered an unidentified orbital station in the Orion Nebula, requesting immediate communication with the appropriate authorities." There was a crackle of static, then a response in a language Samantha did not recognize. She furrowed her brow, cycling through the translation suites in her onboard computer, but the alien tongue defied her efforts. Undeterred, she tried again. "I am an emissary from the planet Earth, seeking peaceful first contact. Please respond." This time, the reply was clear, if laced with suspicion. "Terran craft, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose, or be destroyed." Samantha's heart raced as she considered her options. Should she turn back, report her findings, and let the Galactic Council handle the situation? Or should she press on, risking her life in the pursuit of groundbreaking first contact? In the end, her curiosity and sense of duty won out. "I mean you no harm," she transmitted. "I am merely an explorer, seeking to establish peaceful relations between our peoples. Please, allow me to approach and we can discuss this further." There was a long pause, and Samantha could practically feel the weight of the alien's scrutiny through the void of space. Then, finally, the response came. "Very well, Terran. You may approach, but make no sudden moves. One false step, and you will be eliminated." Samantha let out a shaky breath, her hands trembling slightly as she guided her craft towards the alien station. As she drew closer, she marveled at the sheer scale of the structure, its graceful curves and seamless construction, a testament to the technological prowess of its creators. When she was within 100 meters, a series of hatches along the station's exterior slid open, revealing what appeared to be docking ports. Samantha carefully maneuvered her craft into one, feeling a gentle tug as the station's artificial gravity took hold. "I am disembarking now," she transmitted, taking a moment to compose herself before stepping out of the airlock. The atmosphere inside the station was breathable, if slightly richer in oxygen than Earth's, and Samantha felt a surge of relief as she removed her helmet. As she made her way through the eerily quiet corridors, Samantha couldn't help but be struck by the alien aesthetics. The walls were adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light, and the air hummed with a subtle vibration that set her teeth on edge. She had the distinct impression of being watched, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Rounding a corner, Samantha finally caught sight of her hosts, a trio of tall, slender beings with elongated limbs and large, almond-shaped eyes that regarded her with a mix of curiosity and wariness. Their skin tone ranged from a pale, silvery blue to a deeper, more vibrant azure, and they moved with a fluid, almost ethereal grace. Samantha raised her hands, palms outward, in a universal gesture of peaceful intent. "Greetings," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "I am Samantha Archer, an explorer from the planet Earth. I come in peace, seeking to establish friendly relations between our peoples." The aliens exchanged a series of rapid, musical-sounding exchanges, their expressions unreadable. Then one of them stepped forward, its movements smooth and flowing. "I am Xyloth of the Galactic Council," it said, its voice a rich, resonant baritone that seemed to reverberate within Samantha's very bones. "You claim to come in peace, Terran, but the Galactic Council has long regarded your kind as little more than savages, primitive, violent creatures unfit to join the ranks of the civilized species." Samantha felt a surge of indignation, but she forced herself to remain calm. "I assure you, Xyloth, that the people of Earth have come a long way from the warlike ways of our past. We are a peaceful, curious people, eager to learn from our galactic neighbors and share what we have to offer." Xyloth tilted its head, its large eyes narrowing slightly. "Then you have much to prove, Terran. The Galactic Council will be watching you closely. One false move, and you and your entire species will be wiped from the stars." With that, Xyloth turned and swept away, the other two aliens trailing in its wake. Samantha stood there, alone in the alien corridor, her mind racing with the implications of this first, fateful encounter. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to be turned on its head. Samantha Archer sat straight-backed in the ornate, hovering chair, doing her best to project an air of calm confidence despite the turmoil raging within her. All around her, the members of the Galactic Council observed her with a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and thinly veiled contempt. After her tense initial encounter with Xyloth, Samantha had been escorted to this cavernous chamber, where the representatives of countless alien species convened to oversee the affairs of the known galaxy. The sheer scale of the room was dizzying, with towering ceilings and a dazzling array of holographic displays that projected images and data from across the cosmos. Samantha's gaze swept across the gathered counselors, taking in their diverse and often bizarre physiologies. There were beings that resembled giant, floating jellyfish, others that looked like sentient crystalline structures, and a handful that bore a striking resemblance to Earth's own reptilian species. All of them regarded her with a mix of curiosity and suspicion, their eyes glinting with a calculating intelligence that made Samantha's skin crawl. "Terran," Xyloth's resonant voice boomed, drawing every eye in the chamber to Samantha. "You stand before the Galactic Council, representatives of the most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy. You claim to come in peace, but we have long viewed your kind as little more than savages, primitive, warlike creatures unfit to join our ranks." Samantha straightened her shoulders, meeting Xyloth's gaze unflinchingly. "I understand your concerns, Counselor Xyloth. But I assure you, the people of Earth have come a long way from the conflicts of our past. We are a curious, innovative species, eager to learn from our galactic neighbors and share what we have to offer." A murmur of dissent rippled through the chamber, and Samantha felt a bead of sweat trickle down the back of her neck. She knew that she was treading a fine line, that one wrong move could spell disaster not only for her, but for the entire human race. "Actions speak louder than words, Terran," Xyloth replied, its melodic voice dripping with disdain. "And your species' history of violence and destruction is well documented. How can we trust that you won't bring that same chaos and ruin to the delicate balance of the Galactic Council?" Samantha's mind raced as she considered her response. She knew that the truth, that humanity had indeed been a warlike and destructive force in the past, would only reinforce the Council's negative perceptions. But she also couldn't bring herself to outright lie, to betray the core values that had defined her people for generations. "Counselor Xyloth," she began, her voice steady and measured, "I won't deny that humanity has a history of conflict and bloodshed. We are a young species, still learning to navigate the complexities of our own world, let alone the vast expanse of the galaxy. But I can assure you that we are a people who value peace, cooperation, and the pursuit of knowledge above all else." She paused, gauging the reactions of the gathered counselors. Some still regarded her with open hostility, but others seemed to lean in, their curiosity piqued. "We have seen the devastating consequences of war and division, both on our own planet and across the stars. And we are committed to breaking that cycle, to forging a new path that brings us together, rather than tears us apart." Samantha leaned forward, her eyes burning with intensity. "Give us a chance, counselor. Allow us to demonstrate the depth of our potential, the strength of our spirit, and the beauty of our diversity. I promise you, the galaxy has never seen the likes of us before." The chamber fell silent, the counselors exchanging a series of hushed, rapid-fire exchanges in their alien tongues. Samantha held her breath, her heart hammering in her chest as she waited for their verdict. Finally, Aziloth raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. "The Galactic Council will take your words under advisement, Terran. For now, you will remain our guest, while we deliberate on the appropriate course of action." Samantha felt her stomach drop, but she nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "I understand, counselor. I will cooperate fully with your wishes." Two hulking, armored guards stepped forward, their movements eerily fluid and synchronized. "Come with us, Terran," one of them rumbled in a deep, guttural voice. "Your quarters await." As Samantha was escorted from the chamber, she couldn't help but wonder what fate awaited her, and by extension, the entire human race. The future of Earth now rested in the hands of the Galactic Council, an alien civilization that seemed determined to view humanity as little more than a dangerous liability. But Samantha was not one to give up easily. She would find a way to win them over, to prove that the Deathworlders were more than just savages, that they were a force to be reckoned with, a species poised to take its rightful place among the stars. The air in Samantha Archer's cramped quarters was thick with tension as the Galactic Council's envoys pored over the data she had provided. The young human pilot sat perfectly still, her expression calm and composed, but inwardly her mind was racing. After her impassioned plea before the council, Samantha had been sequestered in this sparse, barely furnished room, where she was subjected to a barrage of relentless questioning and demands for information. The alien representatives seemed particularly interested in the capabilities of Earth's military technology, as well as the history of humanity's many conflicts. Samantha had to tread carefully, revealing just enough to pique their curiosity without exposing the full extent of her species' martial prowess. She knew that the fate of Earth hung in the balance, and a single misstep could spell doom for her entire civilization. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the envoys stepped back, their expressions a mix of awe and unease. Samantha met their gaze steadily, refusing to let the strain show. Terran, one of the envoys, a towering insectoid creature, spoke up, its mandibles clicking rhythmically. "The data you have provided paints a troubling picture of your species. We had always believed that the Deathworlders were little more than savages, incapable of the kind of technological and military advancements you have achieved." Samantha nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "I understand your concerns, counselor. Humanity has a long and tumultuous history, marked by conflict and strife, but we have also shown resilience, innovation, and a deep capacity for growth and change. We are not the same species we were even a century ago." The envoys exchanged a series of rapid-fire exchanges in their alien tongue, their body language tense and agitated. Samantha waited, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, as the implications of her revelations sank in. Finally, Aziloth stepped forward, his normally calm demeanor betraying a hint of unease. "Terran, the Galactic Council has long prided itself on its ability to maintain peace and stability throughout the galaxy. The existence of a species as capable as yours threatens to upset that delicate balance." Samantha felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to back down. "Counselor Aziloth, I assure you that the people of Earth have no desire to disrupt the galactic order. We simply wish to be recognized as equals, to contribute our unique talents and perspectives to the greater good of all sentient beings." Aziloth's large, luminous eyes narrowed. "And how can we be certain that your kind will not use your formidable abilities to seize power, to conquer and subjugate the very civilizations you claim to wish to join?" Samantha took a deep breath, her mind racing as she considered her response. "Counselor, I understand your concerns, but I implore you to look beyond the violence of our past and see the potential that lies within us. We are a species driven by curiosity, by a deep desire to explore and understand the cosmos. Our technological advancements, our military capabilities, these are not tools of conquest, but of exploration, of defense, of scientific discovery. She leaned forward, her gaze intense. The people of Earth have learned from our mistakes, and we are committed to forging a new path, one that prioritizes cooperation, diplomacy, and the betterment of all sentient life. Give us a chance, Counselor. Allow us to prove that we can be valuable partners in the Galactic Council, rather than threats to be eliminated. Xyloth regarded her for a long, tense moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, Terran. The Galactic Council will convene to deliberate on your proposal. In the meantime, you will remain our guest, under close observation. Samantha felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew that the battle was far from over. The Galactic Council had been shaken to its core by the revelations about humanity's capabilities, and there were no doubt those among them who would seek to eliminate the Deathworlder threat before it could take root. As the envoys departed, Samantha allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She knew that the fate of her entire species rested on her shoulders, a burden that weighed heavily upon her. But she also felt a surge of determination, a resolve to prove to the Galactic Council, and to the galaxy at large, that humanity was worthy of a place among the stars. With a deep breath, Samantha straightened her shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Deathworlders were about to make their presence known, and the galaxy would never be the same. Samantha Archer paced the confines of her quarters, her mind racing with a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The fate of her entire species hung in the balance, and she knew that the Galactic Council's decision would be the linchpin that would determine the course of human history. After her confrontation with the alien envoys, Samantha had been left to stew in her own anxieties, her only company the ever-present hum of the station's systems and the occasional shuffle of the guards stationed outside her door. The waiting was agonizing, each passing minute filled with dread and uncertainty. Finally, the door slid open and Xyloth swept in, his towering form casting a long shadow across the room. Samantha straightened her posture, refusing to show any outward signs of the turmoil that threatened to consume her. Terran. Xyloth's resonant voice rumbled. The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species' fate. Samantha felt her heart leap into her throat, but she remained silent, waiting with bated breath for the pronouncement. After much deliberation, the Council has determined that the threat posed by your kind is too great to ignore. Xyloth's gaze narrowed, his luminous eyes burning with a cold, implacable determination. We have decided that the only course of action is to subjugate your homeworld and bring it under the dominion of the Galactic Order. Samantha felt as if the ground had been yanked out from under her. Subjugate, she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. You can't be serious. We've done nothing to provoke such a response. Xyloth raised a hand, silencing her. Your mere existence is a threat to the delicate balance we have worked so hard to maintain. The Deathworlders cannot be allowed to roam free, unchecked and uncontrolled. The safety of the entire galaxy depends on our actions. Samantha's mind raced, scrambling to find a way out of this nightmare. But, Counselor, surely there must be another way. We can work together, forge an alliance, contribute our unique talents to the greater good of the Galactic Order. Doesn't that seem a more prudent course of action than outright conquest? Xyloth's expression remained impassive. The Council has made its decision, Terran. You have two choices: surrender your planet's technology and resources, or face the full might of the galactic military. If you choose the latter, your species will be utterly annihilated. Samantha felt her knees go weak, a cold, sinking sensation in the pit of her stomach. You can't do this, she breathed, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. The people of Earth will never submit to your demands. We will fight, to the last man, to defend our freedom and our way of life. Xyloth's lips curled into what could have been a semblance of a smile. Then so be it, Terran. You have chosen your path, and your species will pay the ultimate price." He turned to leave, but Samantha surged forward, her hand grasping his sleeve in a desperate attempt to stop him. "Wait. There must be some way we can negotiate, some compromise we can reach. Surely you can see the value in forging an alliance with us, rather than destroying us outright." Xyloth paused, his gaze sweeping over Samantha with a mixture of pity and contempt. "The time for negotiation has passed, Terran. The Galactic Council has spoken, and its word is law." He shook off her grip and strode towards the door, his final words echoing in Samantha's mind like a death knell. "Prepare your planet for invasion. You have one Earth cycle to surrender or face the consequences." As the door slid shut, Samantha sank to her knees, a wave of despair washing over her. The Galactic Council had made its decision, and it was a devastating one. Earth was now faced with an impossible choice: submit to the demands of their alien overlords, or fight a battle they had little chance of winning. Samantha knew that her people were resilient, that they had faced seemingly insurmountable odds before and emerged victorious. But this was different. This was a threat that transcended the boundaries of their world, a challenge that would test the very limits of human ingenuity and determination. With a steely resolve, Samantha rose to her feet, her eyes burning with a fierce determination. She would not give up, not without a fight. Somehow, someway, she would find a way to save her homeworld, to prevent the Galactic Council from carrying out their devastating plan. The Deathworlders were about to make their stand, and the fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance. Samantha Archer's mind raced as she paced the confines of her quarters, the weight of the Galactic Council's ultimatum bearing down on her like a suffocating blanket. The fate of her entire species now rested squarely on her shoulders, and the stakes had never been higher. After Xyloth's chilling pronouncement, Samantha had spent countless hours desperately searching for a way to stall the impending invasion of Earth. She knew that her homeworld stood no chance against the might of the galactic military, and the thought of her people being subjugated or wiped out entirely sent a shiver of dread down her spine. As she contemplated her options, a glimmer of hope began to take shape. Surely, with her knowledge of the Galactic Council's inner workings and her understanding of their motivations, she could find a way to manipulate the situation to her advantage. All she needed was time. Time to rally her people, time to forge alliances with other species, time to uncover a solution that would avert the looming catastrophe. With a new sense of determination, Samantha began to formulate her plan. She would need to play a dangerous game of political maneuvering, pitting the various factions of the Council against one another in a desperate gambit to delay the invasion. First, she reached out to the small but influential group of counselors who had previously advocated for forging an alliance with the Deathworlders. Appealing to their sense of curiosity and their desire to explore the untapped potential of humanity, she painted a vision of a future where Earth's unique capabilities could be harnessed for the greater good of the galactic order. "Think about it, counselors," she urged, her voice low and intense. "Humanity has withstood the ravages of war and emerged stronger, more resilient than ever before. We have the drive, the ingenuity, and the sheer determination to become valuable partners in your quest for peace and stability." To her relief, some of the counselors seemed receptive to her overtures, their curiosity piqued by the prospect of harnessing human potential. But Samantha knew that they would need more than just words to sway the more skeptical members of the council. Next, she turned her attention to the opportunistic alien species who saw the council's decision as a chance to gain an advantage. Using her knowledge of their rivalries and ambitions, Samantha carefully seeded the seeds of discord, engineering situations that would pit these factions against one another and divert their attention from the looming invasion of Earth. It was a delicate, high-stakes game, and Samantha knew that a single misstep could spell disaster. But as the days ticked by and the council's deliberations dragged on, she could see the cracks beginning to form in their previously united front. Finally, the moment of reckoning arrived. As the council convened to finalize their plans for the invasion, Samantha watched from the sidelines, her heart pounding in her chest. She had done everything in her power to stall the process, but she knew that her window of opportunity was rapidly closing. Just as the council was about to deliver the fateful order, a commotion erupted on the far side of the chamber. Samantha watched, scarcely daring to breathe, as the rival factions descended into a heated, chaotic argument, each side jockeying for position and trying to undermine the other. In the ensuing pandemonium, the vote on the invasion was postponed, and Samantha felt a surge of relief wash over her. She had bought her people some time, but she knew that the respite would be a fleeting one. The Galactic Council would regroup, and they would come back with an even stronger, more unified front. As she was escorted back to her quarters, Samantha's mind raced with a mixture of triumph and dread. She had managed to avert the immediate threat of invasion, but the battle was far from over. The Deathworlders had made their presence known, and now the galaxy was in turmoil, with countless alien species vying for power and influence. Samantha knew that she would need to act quickly, to forge alliances and uncover a long-term solution that would secure Earth's place in the galactic order. The fate of her homeworld, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested squarely on her shoulders. Samantha Archer paced the confines of her quarters, her mind racing with 1,000 different ideas and strategies. After narrowly averting the Galactic Council's planned invasion of Earth, she knew that she had bought her people precious time. But time was a commodity that was quickly running out. The Deathworlders, as the Council had so disparagingly dubbed her species, had made their presence known, and the repercussions were rippling through the far-flung reaches of the galaxy. Alien civilizations, both large and small, were now vying for position, each one seeking to gain an advantage in the chaotic aftermath. Samantha knew that if Earth was to have any hope of securing a lasting peace and a place within the galactic order, she would need to forge a coalition of her own, one that could stand up to the might of the Council and its allies. Closing her eyes, Samantha took a deep, steadying breath and began to mentally catalog the various alien species she had encountered during her brief time among the stars. There were the Tyloth and their Galactic Council, of course, but they were only one piece of a much larger puzzle. What about the rival factions that had so effectively stalled the Council's invasion plans? Surely they could be convinced to lend their support, if only to further their own agendas. And then there were the countless other civilizations, scattered across the galaxy, that might be persuaded to see the value in an alliance with the Deathworlders. Samantha's eyes snapped open, a spark of determination glinting in her gaze. It was a risky, audacious plan, but she knew that she had no other choice. The fate of her species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Without hesitation, Samantha began to formulate her strategy, meticulously mapping out a course of action that would take her to the far-flung corners of the cosmos. She would need to navigate a minefield of political intrigue, forge unlikely alliances, and constantly be on guard against the ever-present threat of betrayal. But Samantha was no stranger to adversity. She had faced down the skepticism and hostility of the Galactic Council, and she would not be cowed by the challenges that lay ahead. One by one, Samantha reached out to the various alien species she had identified as potential allies. Some were initially wary, their suspicions of the Deathworlders still raw and unresolved. But Samantha was a master of persuasion, her words laced with a passionate conviction that was difficult to ignore. To the Xenarians, a race of insect-like beings known for their technological prowess, she painted a picture of a future where humanity's pioneering spirit and hunger for exploration could be harnessed to unlock the secrets of the universe. To the Kreloth, a nomadic species of warrior scholars, she appealed to their sense of honor and their desire to witness the rise of a new galactic power. And to the Vaelians, a mysterious race of aquatic humanoids, she offered the promise of a mutually beneficial exchange of knowledge and resources, a partnership that would enrich both their civilizations. As Samantha moved from one alien world to the next, weaving a tapestry of alliances and forging bonds of trust, she could feel the tide slowly turning. The Deathworlders were no longer just a curiosity or a threat to be eliminated. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had grown weary of the Galactic Council's rigid, uncompromising rule. Yet even as Samantha celebrated each hard-won victory, she knew that the true test was yet to come. The Galactic Council would not sit idly by while their power and influence waned, and they would stop at nothing to crush the upstart coalition Samantha was building. With a deep, steadying breath, Samantha steeled herself for the battles that lay ahead. The Deathworlders were about to make their stand, and the galaxy would never be the same. The vast, star-speckled expanse of space was alive with the thunderous roar of battle as Samantha Archer guided her fighter craft through a dizzying dance of lasers and missiles. All around her, the ships of her hastily assembled coalition clashed with the formidable armada of the Galactic Council, a clash of civilizations that would decide the fate of her homeworld and the entire galaxy. After weeks of frantic diplomacy and painstaking negotiations, Samantha had managed to forge an unlikely alliance between the diverse alien species she had recruited, each one brought together by a common cause: the defense of Earth against the Council's invasion plans. It had been a perilous, high-stakes gambit, but Samantha knew that she had no other choice. As she banked her fighter sharply to evade a barrage of enemy fire, Samantha couldn't help but marvel at the sheer scale and ferocity of the battle unfolding before her. The sleek, graceful vessels of the Cenarians danced among the hulking battleships of the Krulov, their advanced weaponry carving swaths through the enemy's defenses. Meanwhile, the shimmering force fields of the Valian cruisers shielded their allies from the worst of the onslaught, buying them precious time to regroup and counterattack. Yet, despite the formidable might of her coalition, Samantha knew that the odds were still stacked against them. The Galactic Council had centuries of experience in waging these kinds of interstellar conflicts, and they had the resources and manpower to grind down even the most determined resistance. Gritting her teeth, Samantha dove her fighter back into the fray, her fingers flying across the controls as she unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts against the enemy vessels. All around her, the vacuum of space was filled with the brilliant flashes of explosions and the agonized cries of dying ships. "This is Archer to all units," she radioed, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around her. "We need to buy more time for the ground forces. Concentrate your fire on the Council's capital ships. Take them out, and the rest of their fleet will be thrown into disarray." The response was immediate, as her allies acknowledged the order and surged forward with renewed vigor. Samantha watched with a mixture of pride and trepidation as the coalition's ships executed a series of daring maneuvers, their weapons cutting deep into the Galactic Council's defenses. Yet even as the tide of the battle began to turn in their favor, Samantha couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were running out of time. The Council's forces were relentless, and she knew that they would stop at nothing to crush the upstart coalition and secure their dominance over the galaxy. With a heavy heart, Samantha made the difficult decision to break off from the main engagement, her fighter streaking towards the Council's primary invasion force that was even now descending upon the surface of her homeworld. She knew that she was risking everything, that her actions could very well doom the delicate alliance she had so painstakingly forged. But in the end, the choice was clear. Earth was her home, and she would do whatever it took to protect it, even if it meant sacrificing everything she had worked for. As her fighter streaked through the atmosphere, Samantha caught a glimpse of the massive Council battleships disgorging legions of alien soldiers, their weapons primed and ready to lay waste to the unsuspecting population below. Gritting her teeth, she pushed her craft to its limits, determined to reach the ground forces before they could unleash their devastating assault. "This is Archer to all Terran forces," she radioed, her voice ringing with a steely resolve. "The enemy is on the ground and advancing rapidly. We need to mobilize every available asset to meet them head-on. This is our last stand. For Earth and for the future of the galaxy." Without waiting for a response, Samantha gunned her engines, her fighter hurtling towards the rapidly approaching invaders. As she neared the front lines, she could see the fear and uncertainty in the eyes of the Terran soldiers, their weapons raised, but their resolve wavering. "Stand strong, my fellow Deathworlders," she cried, her voice cutting through the din of battle. "We have faced insurmountable odds before, and we have emerged victorious. This day we fight not just for our homeworld, but for the freedom of the entire galaxy. Let the Council tremble before the might of the Deathworlders." With a roar of defiance, the Terran forces surged forward, their weapons blazing as they met the alien invaders head-on. Samantha felt a surge of pride and determination coursing through her veins as she joined the fray, her fighters' weapons raining destruction upon the stunned Council troops. This was it, the moment of truth. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Samantha knew that there was no turning back, no room for failure. It was time for the Deathworlders to make their stand. The smoke-choked skies over Earth were alive with the desperate roar of battle as Samantha Archer's fighter craft weaved and danced through a hail of enemy fire. All around her, the brave soldiers of her homeworld fought with a ferocity that belied their status as the primitive Deathworlders, their weapons blazing as they stood their ground against the invading Galactic Council forces. Samantha's heart pounded in her chest as she unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts, her fighter becoming a blur of motion as she single-handedly turned the tide of the ground assault. The Council's soldiers, caught off guard by the sheer intensity of the Terran resistance, began to falter, their once confident advance grinding to a halt. "Keep fighting, my fellow Deathworlders." Samantha's voice crackled over the comm channels, her words laced with a fiery determination. "We have come too far to surrender now. For Earth, and for the future of the galaxy." The Terran forces, emboldened by Samantha's rallying cry, surged forward with renewed vigor, their weapons and tactics honed by centuries of conflict on their unyielding homeworld. The Council's invaders, once so certain of their victory, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer tenacity and ferocity of the Deathworlders. As the battle raged on, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet triumph. The sacrifices of her coalition allies, who even now fought and died in the void above, would not be in vain. Earth would be saved, but at a terrible cost. Finally, as the last of the Council's ground forces were either defeated or forced to retreat, Samantha landed her fighter, her legs shaking with a mix of exhaustion and relief. She had done it. Against all odds, she had managed to secure the survival of her homeworld and its people. But the victory was a hollow one, for Samantha knew that the true test was yet to come. The Galactic Council, its power and influence irrevocably shattered, would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup, and they would come back with a vengeance, determined to crush the upstart Deathworlders once and for all. With a deep, steadying breath, Samantha made her way through the rubble-strewn streets, her eyes seeking out the familiar faces of her fellow Terrans. She needed to rally them, to forge a new path forward that would ensure the survival and prosperity of her species, not just on Earth, but across the stars. As she reached the center of the city, Samantha was met by a roar of cheers and applause. The people of Earth, their spirits lifted by the triumph over the invaders, gathered around her, their eyes shining with a newfound hope and pride. Raising a hand for silence, Samantha addressed the crowd, her voice ringing with a sense of purpose. "My fellow Deathworlders, the battle for our homeworld may be won, but the war for the future of our species has only just begun. The Galactic Council will not rest until they have crushed us, and we must be ready to meet that challenge head-on." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the sea of faces before her. "But we are no longer alone. In our darkest hour, we forged alliances with alien civilizations who saw the value in our unique skills and perspectives. Together, we have proven that the Deathworlders are a force to be reckoned with, and that our place among the stars is assured." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Samantha felt a surge of pride and determination coursing through her veins. Now we must seize this moment and shape the future of the galaxy according to our own vision. We will not be subjugated, nor will we be content to remain on the sidelines. The Deathworlders are ready to take our rightful place among the pantheon of galactic powers. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the ruined streets. Samantha smiled, knowing that the journey ahead would be long and arduous, but also filled with the promise of a brighter future. The Deathworlders had made their stand, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the days and weeks that followed, Samantha worked tirelessly to solidify the alliances she had forged, rallying her coalition partners to the cause of a new, more equitable galactic order. The Council, now reduced to a shadow of its former self, was forced to cede power and influence to the emergent Deathworlder-led alliance, its once unassailable dominance shattered by the events that had unfolded. As the dust settled, and the galaxy began to adjust to the new status quo, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of both pride and trepidation. The Deathworlders had proven their worth, but the path ahead was fraught with challenges and uncertainties. Yet, with the unwavering determination that had defined her people for generations, Samantha knew that they were more than ready to face whatever the future might hold. The galaxy, it seemed, would never be the same.